Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Weird World's Return to Infinite Space. This game came out a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, and it's odd that I should even be doing a video on it. But, because it popped up on Steam, and no doubt a lot of you are very curious about it, plus it had a very large update, and is also in a fairly unique situation, having been released so long ago that most of the places that reviewed it don't exist anymore, and then suddenly appearing out of nowhere. I mean, it's been, what, 7 years maybe? Possibly even longer than that since this game actually came out. So I thought, you know, in this situation, let's check it out, and let's just see how much of an update it really is. So what they've done is they've added an external launcher to this title, and it's got enhanced graphical fidelity. It runs in 1080p now, and it's also got full mod support from the launcher as well, which is pretty neat. This is a game by Digital Eel. You may have seen one of the games that they made on my channel before, Data Jackers, which was really weird. And this is designed to be one of the more classic beer and pretzel style of games. It's kind of a lunch break game. It's designed to be a space opera that you can finish in 30 minutes. It's randomized in a lot of different ways. There's 3 different ships you can take, which are essentially difficulty levels. And you go through the universe and try and not die, recover as much technology and people from alien races as possible, and then get back home before your time runs out. It's really that simple. I'll have a look at the settings. There's really not a lot to say here, because most of the graphical options are in the launcher now, and it is a 2D game that should, in theory, run on a potato. So, let's play a session, shall we, and see where it goes. Okay, so to start with, you get to name your captain. We shall, of course, name him TotalBiscuit of the Starship. You know, I like Beagle. I think Beagle's a good name. We shall call it Beazle. There we go. So you've got 3 choices of ships. From what I can tell, I don't think there's a single reason to get this one, the science vessel, unless you're looking for a harder game. There's then Pirate Corvette or Terran Frigate. This starts with 1 weapon, which has a firing arc kind of around here. The rest of the stuff is more heavily armored. This has 2 guns, this has 3 to start with. As far as I know, as I say, there is no advantage to having this ship. I believe it's just designed for those of you who want a more difficult experience. We'll pick the Pirate Corvette, kind of go down the middle of the road here. You can also customize your map size, which is also going to change how long the game runs for. In this case, small map is only 10 years. That can be done in about 15 minutes. Medium, 20 years, that's about 30. And then that's more like 45, 50 minutes. Nebula mass you can customize. This is kind of important because nebulas in this game, until you get a specific kind of technology, slow you the hell down. So it very much limits you where you can actually go. You can also muck around with the enemy strength. So we're just going to go for normal for the time being. We'll roll with a Pirate Corvette. So it gives you this little story, says blah, 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 you've got to do this for like 20 years, and then that's really about it. So you always start at the glory system, and then everything else around it is randomized. This area is designed to allow you to buy weapons in a reliable way. And most of you that are watching this and have played FTL are probably thinking, oh, this is kind of similar to FTL, isn't it? And yeah, to some degree you would actually be right. In this case, though, you've got a randomly generated universe. You don't kind of go from stage to stage to stage, and you fly in the direction of whatever star you want. You can also backtrack and do things like that, and then you will encounter something. In this case, I've encountered a ship. We're going to have words with them, and I think this guy's actually a trader, which is pretty helpful. He also randomly gives me this snail for no apparent reason. Now, the currency system in this game is a little strange, because it essentially has a barter system with values from 1 to 5. In this case, the Snailopus has a value of 1, but some aliens don't really care about values. What they want to do is just get stuff for no good reason, so you can swap them anything. And if you run into one of these first, it's actually kind of lucky. So let's see if he's got any good items. This is my ship and what it's got available. It's got 2 hard points for guns, as well as these circular hard points for upgrades like AI, targeting computers, things like that. That's my shield generator, as well as thrusters and hyperdrives. Hyperdrives make you travel faster on the world map. Thrusters make you travel faster in battle, as you might imagine. You can also get multiple ships And there's actually a formation screen. You can hire mercenaries to fly along with you. And the battle system is actually in real time, as opposed to FTL, which is, of course... Well, actually, that is technically real time, but it's very much a game where you've got to pause a lot and actually make sure that everything's good. There's a lot less micromanagement in this game. Okay, let's see what he's got. What is this? Hard to say. That is a Sardonian Optimizer, and it's a value 5. Now, what the game does a really bad job of doing is communicating any kind of stats or information. What does this do? Don't have any idea. All it says is, it makes weapons work well. How well? In comparison to what? Hard to say. It's probably one of the biggest flaws of the game, honestly. I'm going to trade the... I might trade the Snailopus for it, actually. I just want to see what else he's got first. Does he have any good guns? Don't think so. Again, it's kind of hard to say. I could swap out these thrusters here. This is kind of the stupid thing about this trading system. Especially when you run into an alien that'll just swap them over. It's like, here, have this crappy thing in trade for this. And then you can just kind of swap all your parts of better ones. Marvelous toy. That's, again, for trading. Meson lattice shield. Yeah, I'll happily trade my current shield for that, because it sucks. There we go. So you run into one of these at the start, you're really well set up for the rest of the game. You can also call him at any time using the Clackar beacon, although he'll only have the stuff that you traded him in the first place. I don't really want to get that weapon. I'll probably stick with what I've got. I do want the Optimizer, though, so I'm going to take the Snailopus, trade him the thing he just gave me, and then take the Sardian Optimizer, or whatever the balls it's called. There we go. I think pretty much nothing else here is particularly useful for me at the moment, because I can't really trade. But if I find some low-value items, I can call them up to me, and then I can trade for the high-value stuff, and then when I run into a trader that actually requires money, I'll be able to utilize that. Alright, so... we are pretty much out of there right now, and I'm going to travel to another area. This here is a nebula. This is kind of getting in the way. So there's another item that I can maybe trade him for, actually. Let's do that. It's like, hey, I've got a crappy thruster. Let's trade it for this value 5 thing. Yeah, why not? Exactly. Sounds reasonable to me. Alright, well, the map is a little awkward this time around, simply because this nebula is kind of in the way. Every now and again, you'll run into a map that just has a ton of that. I could trade some weapons here, but again, it's really hard to say as to whether or not they're better. I assume they are, because this is like value 2. This railgun is pretty good for shooting down missiles, but I do also have a pretty good shield now, so let's take this, put it in there, and as you can see, it sort of racks up 5 coins. And then I can take 5 coins value worth of stuff. Why they didn't just put a currency system in the game, I don't know. I don't really know why they feel that this was a particularly good idea and that this was a great system to have. I can understand the whole alien barter thing. It's like, oh, aliens have no concept of value, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that makes sense, but the lack of an actual currency system is just a really weird choice overall. I mean, I guess it might have something to do with the fact that your cargo hold has limited space and things like that, so, you know, you've got to think about that. Alright, we might be getting into a fight here. Now, I do have a good shield and that computer system, as well as a couple of upgraded weapons. But it looks like this is going to be first contact, so never mind. We will not have to actually fight them. There we go. So, now if I so desire, I can purchase stuff from here. Signature projector, what's that all about? A duplicate Starship Ghost that are pre-selected. That sounds useful. I can trade them this jacket for that. There we go, that's a nice little upgrade here. This is probably one of the most successful runs I've done in this game so far. I mean, in fact, that's... the game is just chock full of runs where you just run into something really horrible and end up dying. And that's kind of the point of it. They describe the game as sort of roguelike in a way. And they're not necessarily wrong. Oh, nice. Okay. So I guess something happened there. Oh yeah, I have another ship now. They actually added me, as you can see. Can check them out. That's their ship. What kind of weapons does it have on it? You can equip the ships that you happen to run into. These look relatively potent, actually. More potent than stuff that I've got, so we'll just stick with that for the time being. That should be fine. Man, I am doing really well here. This is the luckiest run I've done yet. As you can see, there's not really a lot of strategy involved in this at this point, simply because I'm just sort of running through the areas like, oh, yeah, okay, now I have this, and then now I have this, and I'm just flying from thing to thing to thing. And the rest of the game involves fighting, which we may end up doing here, or we may not. That is, it's an alien Hulk, okay, so I'm just gonna head on over and raid it. This is the battle screen, which, for no apparent reason, displays while you're having to deal with stuff like Hulks and boarding them, which is kind of a waste of time. Thankfully, I have fast thrusters. I've had this take like a minute to reach the Hulk, and there's never a threat, so there's no point in this screen actually being here, but it is here regardless, so you kind of have to deal with that. Eventually, hopefully, you will get to see some battles. Nebula Sled Drive. That's a pretty good thing to have, because that is going to allow me to get through nebulas nice and quickly, which is something I couldn't do previously, so we can now go and venture over here. Now, down to the bottom right, you'll see the number of days you've got available. Looks like we might be getting into a fight now. Yeah, these guys don't like us very much. Alright, let's fight them. Let's see how it goes. So, as you can see, it's done in real time, which is, it's kind of neat. It's pretty well zoomed out. Once the ships get closer to each other, they actually do zoom in, but it is kind of weird to watch. Let's see if my shields actually hold up. Well, they've already managed to batter their way through them, so hopefully they recharge pretty quickly. And as you can see, I'm just trying to deal with these little annoying fighter ships that are coming in my general direction. There's not really a lot of strategy involved in it, honestly. I might have to retreat him, because I think he might end up dying. I say, there's not really a huge amount of strategy involved in it. It's mostly just a case of move your ships around, kill stuff, and that's really about it. There's a couple of things you can do, like I could have used that projector there. In fact, I probably should have, in order to project an image of me and so on and so forth. Just repairing that ship there. But it's otherwise a fairly basic combat system. Reasonably enjoyable combat system, but still pretty damn basic. So I guess, what is the point of the game? Well, the point is to earn as much score as you can, and to survive the 20-year tour of duty. It's really that simple. They don't look particularly... Yeah, they're not particularly happy with me, are they? Okay. Can I use that projector? I did install it, right? No. Apparently, I guess that's not a special ability, so... Alright, time to engage and hope that these drones don't horribly murder me. Well, it seems my shields are holding against whatever they're firing at me at the moment. The Farseeker may not be so lucky, but we will see. I guess it would have been nicer if there was more complexity in the actual battle system. The first game they made, which was Strange Adventures in Infinite Space, actually... Oh, I'm going to die here, aren't I? Yeah, that's the end, by the way. That can happen. I just got horribly murdered. So, yeah. There we go. The previous game they did was designed to be kind of done in 10 minutes. It was called Strange Adventures in Infinite Space. And it didn't really involve a huge amount of anything. You just kind of rode around the system, gathered some stuff. Each adventure would end up being a little bit different. That was actually my best run yet, as you can see. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. We'll roll with another one. Might even go with the science vessel just to make things a little bit interesting. And that's kind of all the game really is. And it's designed to be finished nice and quickly. And don't get me wrong, I do have fun with it. I want to roll up again and try again and see what kind of things that I meet up with. Especially bearing in mind that there are some mods for this game which add quite a lot more content to it, which is always nice. But I am still running into this notion that there isn't really a lot of intelligence involved in it. It's really just a case of run around, see what you get. Sometimes you'll just run into things which will completely destroy you. They stole my stuff. How irritating. Let's not travel that way, because that's going to take me over the nebula. Guess we can only travel in a straight line. The game doesn't really help you in any way either, simply because it's really quite bad at giving you feedback. It doesn't tell you how good a weapon is, what an item really does. I think this science vessel has a scanner of some sort. It seems to. It's kind of pulsing out a little bit there, so... It seems to give me warnings as to what's occupied. The problem is, I don't know if something's going to attack me or not. So, it's hard to say if it's even worth traveling to these places. It's hard to compare weapons as well, because you don't really know what they do. It never really tells you. This doesn't look friendly at all. I'm going to avoid it. It's like, oh, there's like 8 ships? Yeah, I probably shouldn't be there. So I guess it's something you just have to explore and experiment with over time. And some people would find that enjoyable. I still do. And don't get me wrong, I'm still having fun. It's just the game's like flawed in a lot of different ways. And after playing FTL, it's hard to go back to a game like this and say, oh yeah, you know, this has really got a lot to offer here. Because FTL is just kind of better in that regard. I feel that this... I don't even know if this game is more or less forgiving than FTL is. Some people complain that you get into a situation where you just can't win in FTL. I think you've probably got more control over that than you do here. In this case, you end up in a situation where you just run into something and it just randomly kills you. Like, oh, I thought I had a really good ship. I had like a cost 5 computer and a cost 5 shield, and then you just melt in 2 seconds. Like, oh, well, that sucks. And that doesn't really happen in FTL. It takes a lot longer for you to die. You've got a lot more options. And obviously the game's just more in-depth in general in terms of its combat system. It doesn't, however, mean that the game isn't fun. And for a little bit of casual space entertainment, it's definitely not bad. Having mod support is also helpful as well. I am intrigued to see whether or not it will actually end up being something that gets a bunch more mod support now that it's come out again, I suppose. Hard to say, really. Man, the science vessel sucks. I can get, like, maybe one more thing. We'll trade that for the... Where is it? The Nebula Plow. There we go. Apparently that should let me go through nebulas pretty quickly. So it claims. And annoyingly enough, that's kind of about it, unless I want to switch out my warp drive. That goes 16 times the speed of light. What does mine go? 12 times. Alright, yeah. It's like, hey, I will swap you my crappy stuff for your not-so-crappy stuff. They also have a weapon there, Positron Scrambler Beam. I have a Neptunian Railgun, which is more of a point defense weapon. This thing, by the way, is only armed with one. Yeah, I do mean one gun, which is... Yeah, it's not exactly ideal. It does come with a scanner by default, which is always nice. As you can see, that is what works there, but still. It's like, This is kind of hard mode playing here. Oh, excellent. Nice. I got myself another guy. Oh, kind of what gear he's got. He's alright. Only better than my bloody ship, that's for sure. So, overall, would I actually recommend this? It is definitely kind of hard to say that it's a really awesome game. It's a little bit of fun, yeah? When this game came out, there wasn't really a lot like it. Now there's FTL, which I think is just a flat-out better game in pretty much every respect. This is still fun to fly around in and do a little bit of casual stuff, but since they ported this to iPad a couple of years ago, it's probably best to pick it up there. This is the kind of thing that you can do while waiting for a bus, you know? It's like, hey, let's have a little space adventure. Would I sit down and play it on a regular basis? Probably not. You know, just simply on the basis of the fact that it just doesn't have an awful lot of depth. I think, you know, they could have definitely cranked things up with the combat engine, and they didn't. So, you gotta think, well, this is, you know, it's not an ideal position to be in when you're trying to sell against something like FTL. And overall, it's the sort of thing that you would play during your lunch break, maybe have a little bit of fun with it, but there's very little depth really involved in this particular title. Still, if that's what you're looking for, then give it a bash. It's about $7 on Steam or your regional equivalent, or you can pick it up on iPad as well. I guess it's just a shame that it came out on Steam in 2013, not years ago when the game actually came out, because I think it would have been received a lot better at that point. My hope, however, is that if this does reasonably well, then the Digital Eel guys will be able to make another game in the series, and they can end up significantly cranking things up, because I think the mixture of randomized space opera with sort of interesting graphic style, music, and sense of humor is appealing but not appealing enough right now considering its competition to really justify spending an awful lot of time with it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has been TotalBiscuit. This has been a look at Weird Worlds Return to Infinite Space, and I'll see you next time.